Hello. Obviously, you all know me. I'm Jason Lyons. I'm just doing this short video that Pastor asked me to make because I wasn't able to participate in the panel discussion. Um, so I decided I would take a few minutes, as he asked, to just go through some of the questions and talk about my experiences as far as race and my upbringing and career is concerned. Um, First and foremost, I'm going to skip to one of the questions. It says, can you offer some suggestions to help our church become more welcoming to people of other races? And the short answer is just keep doing what we're doing. I've always found Stagecoach to be very welcoming. And from the time that I first accidentally pulled into the parking lot to make a U-turn, and the Lord spoke to my heart, and I went inside and I don't remember exactly who I spoke to, but it just immediately felt welcoming to me, and I've seen that throughout our Brenda and I's years through the at the church. So I don't have any suggestions right now, except to just keep being who we are as a church. We, in my neophyte opinion, I believe that we are an example of what a church is supposed to be as far as welcoming people in. Um, Another question was, have you ever felt uncomfortable at SRCF because of your race? Can you explain why? Um, Overall, no. I mean, when incidents happen, such as the things that have happened in the last month or two, of course I feel it. I feel it to my core. And I will be honest, not in the church itself, but individually, there are some who have said things on social media um, that have prickled, you know, kind of pricked at my soul and my heart. And the response was anger and sadness. Uh, but I'm not one to, I don't really lash out. It's not really my thing. But I've decided, maybe I'll take a step back from that person for a little while. But I always try to make sure that I do my research. I'm an intelligence officer by trade, by background. So I always do research. So if I see something that someone posts or comment, I will try to look back at their other posts on social media and see if maybe I missed something, so that I can make the best informed opinion about what it is that they posted or said. Uh, and I know that emotion is at the heart of all of this. As a nation and individually with all of us, whatever our emotions are. So I try to actually try to factor that in as well. So no, the church itself uh, has never shown me any kind of. There's no. I've never seen any kind of racial tension towards me or made me uncomfortable. I know that Pastor Jim Leary spoke a while back, probably a year ago now, maybe less. He did talk about race, and it wasn't that I was uncomfortable. It was more I felt the discomfort from others in the congregation, and but it's to be expected. It's not a very light subject, but I do thank him for doing that, and I thank Pastor Tom and anyone else who suggested or contributed to this. I thank all of you for doing this because it's a very uncomfortable situation and a very uncomfortable conversation to have. Heck, it's uncomfortable to even talk about it with my own kids to even have to do it, but we're human beings. Yes, we're children of God, but we're human beings, so it's not something that's easy. Sorry, my phone keeps dying. This is where I have my question. So, um, back to the beginning. Do you recall your family experiencing discrimination while you were a child? How has that shaped the way you viewed your life? As a family, I don't ever remember it. I grew up in Brielle, New Jersey. I'm not sure if anybody knows where that is. It's next to Manasquan, Asbury Park, Belmar. So predominantly, it's a white area. Predominantly, there are black families in the town that I lived in Brielle. There's actually a road, Higgins Avenue, that is like the demarcation line where anything south of that, no minority family has ever lived. It's all been all white families, and I'm not going to say it's a big, you know, conspiracy thing or anything like that. Just never been that way. So, but north of that is where I lived, and it was lower to middle class, low middle class area. Everybody seemed to be, pretty got along well with my family. So I'd have to ask my parents that. But how it shaped the way I view my life more so came from my parents. My parents always taught us that, number one, my mom, she raised us in the church. My father didn't come to know the Lord till later in life, but my mom raised us in the church. Both of my parents always taught us, you will always treat people with respect and with dignity. Whether you know them or not, whether you like them or not, you're going to treat them with respect. And if you don't like that person, it's because of something that individual has done to you, not what a group of people has done. On the other side of that, they let us know that not everybody feels that way, and there are going to be some people who don't like us because of the way we look, and that there are people that look like us who don't like others because of the way they look. And so, just to be aware of that. Back when I was a kid, it really wasn't at least when I was young, it wasn't really a police versus us thing. Wasn't really like that. It was just respect the police. You respect authority, period. And if there's a problem, you do what you're told to do until you come home, and then you tell us, and we'll take care of it. And that's exactly how I teach my children as well. My wife and I try to teach our children that as well. But I have had experiences with law enforcement, so I've never been arrested or I have no record or anything like that. But things have been done in front of me or to me or said to me that haven't really shaped the way, my life or my life experience. I'm just aware. I'm even today when I'm driving to work. Um, Part of my job is I work with law enforcement state troopers, so I have my ID out and ready while I'm driving. So if I'm ever pulled over, I'm not reaching for it. I don't forget to say, "Hey, I'm going to reach for anything like that." I make sure that it's out and ready to go. I'm respectful. Even if the officer is not, I'm respectful. Um, okay. Can you share with us a time when you experienced harassment or discrimination because of your racial identity? There's been a lot. Um, that ranged all the way from when I was a teenager, having a father tell me, I respect you for, you do a lot for our football team. You seem like a good kid, but it doesn't matter how many tackles you make, how many touchdowns you score. You will never date my daughter while you're black and she's white. It ranged from that to when I got older, actually, when I worked at an intelligence agency, I was at headquarters down in Washington D.C. I'm in a suit and tie, as everyone is, and I go to get on a elevator, and it was like the classic. There was a woman. I can't say she was necessarily white. She might have been Hispanic. I'm not sure, but she literally backed into the corner and like clutched her chest, and I didn't say anything at first, but she just cowered in the corner. And as the doors opened and I got out, I turned and I said, "We're in probably one of the most well protected buildings in the world, and I'm in a suit and tie. If I'm here, I have a security clearance. You have no reason to be afraid of me." She didn't know what to say. She didn't say anything. The door closed and off she went. That didn't really anger me. I actually kind of laughed about it because it's almost something out of a movie, but it showed you that there are things that are deeply ingrained in people. And I don't know. Maybe she was sexually assaulted. Maybe she was abused by us. I have no idea, but it just, it really stuck with me. That sort of thing. While I was in the Marine Corps, multiple. There are multiple instances of um, incidents that had to do with race. Good friend of mine, he is now, but he wasn't then. Notorious drunk, asked me to hold his car keys one night because he didn't want to drink and drive again. So I said, okay. He said, no matter what, do not give it back to me. Okay, no problem. We go out. He decides he's going to get drunk. Hey, give me my keys. I said no. He told me not to. He insisted, and I said no. So I made sure he had a ride home, and I left. Back to the barracks. This is before cell phones. I'm on a payphone saying goodnight to my daughter, and I hear a crash, glass breaking. Friend comes running. Hey, you need to come out here. This guy had come back to the barracks and was so angry with me, took a giant brick and threw it through my barracks room window, and actually hit my roommate who was asleep at the time. So I come out and ask him what his problem is, and he starts throwing the N-word around. So I said to him, listen, man, I understand you're drunk. I'm just trying to be a friend to you, but stop saying that word. He kept saying it. So I said, if you say it one more time, we're going to fight. He said it again. He got knocked out, plain and simple. Was it right for me to hit him first? No. But at the time, I was a young Marine, and he was a friend. So it's worse for anyone who's never experienced it before. It's one thing coming from a stranger, and I've had that happen. It is a completely different thing when it's someone you've worked and literally fought and bled alongside for, for years to just come out and say that. That's a different type of hurt. So, those sorts of things. Little jokes here and there from people. And then there are the more passive things, such as, well, when something's brought up, why don't you people do this? Or, what the Black community needs to do? You need to do this. Those sorts of things. And I'm just going to say flat out, that's a no-no. Nobody, I will say this right off the bat. The Black community, we have a lot that we need to work on. And there are many of us that are self-aware of that. But for someone to tell us what we need to do, I just don't agree with it. It's just wrong to me. I will never tell the white community or the Hispanic community or the Asian community what they need to do, because I'm not those things. So, yes, we're all Americans, we're all humans, but we all have different cultures. We all have different experiences. So for someone to throw a blanket statement like you need to, that's a big no-no. So yeah, I have had them, but if anyone knows me, you know that I experience something, I deal with it, I learn the lesson from it, and I move on. So I don't harbor any ill will. As a matter of fact, that guy and I are really good friends today. We've talked about it. Have you witnessed someone else being discriminated against because of their racial or ethnic identity? How did you respond? Absolutely. It's happened, not just black and white thing. And that's something that really bothers me when the media, I can go on this big media, biased media tangent thing or anything like that. Take it what you will from it, but there's a big uh, seems to be a big push in the media towards black and white tension, but it's not just black and white. There are all different races. All of the different races have some sort of tension towards one another. But I guess because of the incident that's happened or incidents that have happened, it becomes that. It becomes just black versus white. So I have witnessed uh, discrimination against blacks, against whites, against Asians, Southwest Asians, all sorts, Indians, all sorts of people. And the one overarching thing for me is I say something, and because I don't tolerate it. I have family members, not immediate, but distant relatives or friends of the family we call cousins, or whatever, who have said things about whites, Asians, whatever. And because I blasted them for it, they don't speak to me anymore. And I just honestly, I don't care. Maybe that's not the way to think, but I don't care. If you can't have your ignorance called out and accept that it's wrong and try to make it do better, well, then I'm too old to, as you can see from the beard, I'm too old to try to explain it to you. So yeah, and we have always taught our children the same thing. You don't have to get physical about it, but if you see an injustice, no matter who it's against, you should stand up for it. Because if you don't, you're complicit. And it's simple. I hope that's the right use of the term. You're complicit. You're accepting of it. Okay. Hmm. Really, I think that's it. I've covered just about all of them. Again, I just want to thank Pastor Tom, Pastor Jim, um, all of the panel members, the Tanksleys, Mary Robinson, and the Jim and Jimmy DeShields, and anybody else that participated. I'm sorry that wasn't there, for stepping up and saying that this is something that needs to be addressed. I'm not saying that it changes anyone's mind. I have no idea. Uh, and if it does, great. It's not to change your mind so you have to say I'm sorry to me. I don't need you to say I'm sorry to me. The black community, the Hispanic community, the white community, nobody needs anybody to say I'm sorry. That's one thing that I defer from, where I differ from other people. I don't need you to apologize. That's fine. I'm not saying you're a racist. You don't have to come up to me and say I'm a racist, and I'm not saying you're a racist if you feel differently. What I'm saying is your thoughts and actions towards people who do not look like you or share the same cultures or values or those sorts of things, they define who you are, and only you and God know who you are. So if you need to do some soul searching, then that's between you and God, and you need to do it. All I ask is that you treat people with the same respect that they treat you, and that we see each other, as Pastor Tom and Pastor Jim have said, God's children. Yes, all lives matter, but we need to break apart those three words and really understand what that means. The key being not all, the key to me is matters. So how does that matter? How do those lives matter to you? Whether it's the president of the United States, the little girl in India who's working to be a doctor because that's what she wants to be, or the man who, yes, has a criminal history, which shouldn't matter, neither here nor there, but has a knee in the back of his neck while he's already handcuffed on the ground. His life mattered. Doesn't matter what he did in his past. And if you're digging into his past, that's the first thing you did, or if the first thing you say is, but what about the riots? Not that injustice that sparked all of this, again, that's between you and God. And I think that's a conversation that needs to be had between the two of you. So I just want to say thank you for this conversation, the opportunity to have it. If anyone ever has any questions or concerns, or even, hey, I think you're full of it, no problem. Come to me. We can talk about it, like adults, and we will come to some sort of conclusion. And I love you all. I truly mean that. And my wife and I love Stagecoach. It's just an incredible place. More than just a building. It literally is a heartbeat, and we are blessed to be a part of it. So